Ready, set, secure.
Hello, and welcome to an introduction to Splunk dashboard tokens. I'm Chuck Brown, Service Delivery Manager for our data analytics group here at SET Solutions. If you'd like to learn more about SET Solutions and how we build long-term partnerships based on successful outcomes, please visit us at setsolutions.com. And with that, let's jump right in. If you're not familiar with Splunk dashboard tokens, you can think of them as programming variables. Some token values are predefined, but you can create custom tokens that are defined by dashboard form inputs. You can also set values for custom tokens within the simple XML code of your Splunk dashboards. In this video, I'll demonstrate how to create a troubleshooting debug panel in your dashboard to view the values of your tokens. And then we'll use our tokens to build an interactive dashboard that will update a Splunk search to change a chart, update a panel title, change a chart visualization, and even change the visibility of a panel. You don't have to worry about copying down any of the links used in the video. We will make sure they are posted in the notes section. For this walkthrough, I'll use a free standalone Splunk installation, version 8.1.2, and a free Splunk search tutorial set. If you'd like to follow along and build this dashboard on your own system, you can download both at no charge directly from Splunk using this URL. Here's the area where you can download the tutorial data files. The tutorial data.zip is the only one we'll need. And if you don't already have a Splunk instance, you can follow these links for a free Splunk Cloud trial or download the installation files for your preferred operating system. Loading of the dataset is described in Part 2, uploading the tutorial data, upload the tutorial data. Let's switch over and load it into our Splunk instance. We will select Add Data, Upload. I will drag the tutorial data.zip file over to our system. Next, on the input settings page, we will override the default values as described in the link. We will select segment and path for host and segment number 1. Review our data. Submit. And start searching. See data in our system. Now we can begin building our dashboards. Before we go any further, let's make a note of the start day and end day for our data set. In my case, it is February 23rd for the start and March 3rd for the end. Let's go ahead and close our link to the Splunk tutorial data and go to the search and reporting app in our Splunk instance. And let's open one new duplicate tab of our Splunk instance. We'll use this to test some of our searches for our charts and inputs. Now on to dashboarding and our token debug panel. Click Dashboards and create a new dashboard. We'll name our dashboard Token Examples. We'll add a chart to our dashboard. Add panel, new, column chart. We'll call this chart Count of all HTTP error response codes for host www1. For the time range, we'll use the time picker. In a typical use case, you would probably want this to be a preset relative time range, like last 24 hours or last 7 days. In this video, I'll use the date range of my tutorial data, which is February 23rd to March 3rd. Apply. Our search string will be index equals main, source type equals access combined W cookie, host equals www1, status greater than 399. We will time chart this count of status codes by the host. Add this to our dashboard, close the Add panel, and save. We now have a chart that shows all HTTP error codes that occurred on host www1 within the specified time range. That's a great start, but maybe we'd like to know individual error code counts instead of seeing the count of all. We could build a chart on our dashboard for each error code. Instead, let's use a token to make our existing dashboard dynamic, and we can pick which error code we want to display in our chart. So let's create a dashboard input that will automatically populate with the HTTP error codes, and we'll create a custom panel to view the tokens we generate from that input. Edit, add input, and we'll select Dropdown for this input. We edit the input properties by clicking on the pencil icon for the input. The input label will be what we see in our dashboard. We'll call that HTTP error code. Let's have the chart automatically update when we select an error code, so check the Search on Change option. And then for the sake of clarity, in this example, we'll be very explicit in our naming of our tokens. So we'll name this token status token. We will select a default option, however, we can't pick one right now since we've not defined any yet. Here we define any prefix or suffix we want for our token. These will surround the option value as it's passed to our token. That probably doesn't make much sense right now, but I'll explain it further after we create our debug panel. In this section of our input, we can define static and dynamic options to appear in the dropdown. The option name is also known as the option label, and it's what your dashboard user will see when they select something from the input. The option value is typically passed to the input token, getting any defined prefixes or suffixes along the way. We'll create one static option of all, value of asterisk. Our dynamic input options will be pulled right from the data itself. We'll need a search query that retrieves a list of all status codes greater than 399. Let's take a moment, jump over to our other tab, and test our search. Index equals main. Source type equals access combined W cookie. Status greater than 399. We will deduplicate the status codes. We will then table the status codes. And for visibility and make it look pretty, we'll sort them. We'll run this over all time for right now. Here's the list of our status codes. So we'll take our search, go back to our dashboard, paste it into the search string. In a typical use case, you might run your dynamic option search over the same time period as your chart. Because this is just an example and we want to keep it simple, we'll go ahead and select all time to ensure that we get the values we need out of our data set. The field that will be used for the label will be the status field. And in this case, the field we'll use for the option values will also be the status field. Note that these can be different if your data contains some other field that you'd like to use for either the option label or the option value. Lastly, let's go back up to our token options and select the default to be all. Apply, save, refresh. It's a good idea to always refresh your dashboard after you've modified it. I've run into dashboard issues that would not make any sense at all and would just disappear after a page refresh. We now have an input for our dashboard that dynamically populates with the HTTP status error codes found in our dataset. Before we integrate this input into our chart, let's create a debug panel to see what the tokens contain. So we'll edit the XML source. And here are the two sections of our dashboard. Our input, and here's the panel containing our chart. Looking at the input section, we see the token is status token. Between the input and the chart panel, we'll create a new panel. Row, panel, title, token debug, HTML, H2, status token equals $, status token $. When you want to retrieve the value of a token, you reference it with a $ character at the start and at the end of the token. Let's save, refresh, and look at our debug panel. Our status token value updates as we switch between our input options. Now let's add some additional code to our dashboard so we can view our input option label and our input option value. Edit, source. Again, here is our current input. We'll add some code at the bottom of this input. Change, set token equals $, status option label token. We'll make that the value of the label. And we'll set another token, status option value token. We'll make that the value of the value. Now that we've set these new tokens, let's add them to our debug panel to view them. So we're going to show the value of the status option label token and the status option value token. Let's save, refresh, and take a closer look at our debug panel. Now we can see not only what the token contains, but we can see what the option label is and the option value that we're selecting. In this case, the option value is an asterisk, but the label that the user sees is the word all. Other cases, these values may be the same. Let's integrate our status input into our chart. Again, we'll go to Edit, Source. The status token contains what we're wanting to search for in the status field. We'll update our search and replace status greater than 399 with status equals $status token $. Save and refresh. Our input is now updating our chart. But our chart title no longer accurately represents the content. Let's use our status option label token to fix that. Edit, Source, and in the title of our panel, the count of all HTTP error codes for host www1 will change the word all to the token we defined of status option label token. Save and refresh. Now, when we select an option from our dropdown, the chart and the panel title update automatically. Maybe we want to compare the error code counts on different hosts. To do that, let's add an input allowing us to select multiple hosts for comparison. Edit, Add Input, and we'll use a checkbox. Edit our new input. The label will be hostname. We'll search on change. And again, to be explicit, we'll call this the host token. We'll come back to the default after we've defined some options. In a multi-select input, the token options look a bit different than a dropdown. In addition to a token prefix and suffix, we have options to define a token value prefix, a token value suffix, and a delimiter between the values. To help guide us through this complexity, Splunk has added a nifty preview feature. In this exercise, our token prefix will be an open paren. The token suffix will be an end paren. The token value prefix will be host equals quote. The token value suffix will be a single quote, or will be a quote. And our delimiter will be space, the word or in caps, and another space. Let's build a preview of what our token will look like, and we'll use the token in our search string to modify the search to retrieve the host we want. We will add a static option of all with an asterisk. And our search string for our dynamic options will be index equals main, source type equals access combined w cookie, status greater than 399, dedupe host value, table host value, and sort host value. We'll run our search over all time for this example. Our field for our label will be the host value, and the field for the value will also be host. Apply, save, refresh. We now have an input that dynamically populates with host names found in the data. I did forget to add a default value, so let's go back and modify that. Edit, our input, and our initial value, our default value will be all. Save, refresh. There we go. Now let's add the code necessary to set the option label and option value, as well as these new tokens to our debug panel. Edit, the source. Here is our host token input. Right before the end of the input, we will define our new tokens. So here we're setting our new tokens of host option label token and host option value token. Because it's a multi-select input, we need to specify a delimiter. We'll give the option label token the value of the label, the option value token the value of the value. Moving down to our debug panel, we'll add the code necessary to view the values of these tokens. Host token equals $ host token $. So here we've defined the values of host option label and host option value. In our debug panel, we will display the content of the host option label and the host option value tokens. Save and refresh. In our token debug panel, we can see the values for our host token, the host option label, and the host option value. All is currently selected. Host token is paren host equals quote asterisk quote in paren, while the option label is all and the option value is an asterisk. If we select other hosts, we can see how this changes. In our exercise, we'll use the host token to modify the search that drives our panel, and we'll use the option label in the panel title. So let's update our panel chart. and the title of our panel to use our new hostname tokens. Edit, Source. The host option label token will be used in our title. So we'll do the error response codes for host, remove www1, and insert host option label token. And in the search driving the chart, we'll remove host equals www1 and replace that with host token. Save and refresh. Now our panel title updates automatically, as well as our chart when we select different options for our dashboard. Well, our dashboard is coming along quite nicely. But let's say some of our users prefer a line chart or an area chart instead of a column chart. Although you could create a separate panel for each, we'll add an input allowing users to change the chart type to the one they prefer. Edit, add input. This time we'll use a radio button. The label will be chart type. We will not select search on change for this input. The dashboard visualization can be modified without having to rerun our search. We'll name our token chart token. We'll come back to default in a moment. No prefix or suffix will be needed, and we'll define 3 static options. First will be area chart, the value of area, line chart, the value of line, and column chart with the value of column. Apply our changes. Before we save our dashboard, let's add our token to our debug panel. Edit the source, down to our debug panel, create another horizontal row, display the value of our token. Save and refresh. I have forgotten to set the default value. Let's go do that now. Apply, save, refresh again. We can select the different chart types and see the token value change. Let's integrate it into our chart. Edit, source. Move down to our chart and modify the charting.chart value. Instead of the word column, we will use our token, chart token. Save and refresh. Now our visualization changes when we select a different chart type. Let's assume you're happy with how the dashboard is coming along and you really like your debug panel. but you're sure your users will not want to see it all the time. We can add an input that hides the debug panel by default and allows you to view the contents when you'd like. We'll add an input, and add a checkbox. Edit the checkbox. We will remove the field label. Do not search on change, as this input will only be used to update our dashboard visualization. No need to rerun the search. Our token will be debug token. We will leave the default purposefully blank on this input, and we'll add one static option of show debug panel with a value of 1. Let's apply this and add the contents to our debug panel. Apply, edit source, save and refresh. We did not select a default, so our token has no value. When we do select our option, the token value is 1. And finally, let's modify our dashboard and use this token to show our debug panel. Edit, source. In the debug panel element, we'll update it to include a depends attribute. Depends equals quote $debug token $. So what we've done is configure the panel to only display when debug token has a value. By default, debug token will not have a value and the debug panel will not display. Save and refresh. When our Show Debug Panel input option is unchecked, our token debug panel will disappear. We can verify that the Show Debug Panel will not appear by default. We can go to Dashboards, select our token examples dashboard, and all values will be default. All HTTP error codes, all host names, column chart, with no debug panel shown. I hope this introduction to Splunk dashboard tokens has been worthwhile and has given you a few ideas of how to use inputs and tokens in your own interactive Splunk dashboards. If you did find this to be useful, don't forget to click that like button. Feel free to leave a comment with your feedback or suggestions for future video content. And finally, please reach out to us if we can be of any help. Thank you.